Today's Faith and Finance Live is actually not live, so our phone lines are not open.
Faith-based investing shouldn't stop at the water's edge. Hi, I'm Rob West. Diversification is a key part of wise investing, and for many portfolios, that includes looking beyond U.S. markets. But how do you pursue international exposure while staying aligned with biblical convictions? Today, Benjamin Bailey joins us to discuss faith-based investing, global diversification, and a new international ETF designed with Christian investors in mind. Then we have some great calls lined up, but please don't call in today because we're pre-recorded. This is Faith and Finance Live, biblical wisdom for your financial decisions. Well, we're delighted to welcome Benjamin Bailey back to the program. Benjamin serves as Vice President of Investments at Praxis Investment Management, a trusted and longtime underwriter of faith and finance. Benji, great to have you with us.
It's great to be back.
Praxis recently launched an exciting new international exchange-traded fund, and I want to dive into that for a moment. But first, Benji, for listeners who may be brand new to faith-based investing, would you define it for us and also add maybe what trends you're seeing in terms of demand?
Yeah, so faith-based investing is an investing approach that says financial decision-making can be motivated and informed by faith, right? So it holds in tension these two things, productive use of our financial resources, but also this deep-seated concern for the individuals, communities, and God's creation also that are impacted by our investment decisions. So celebrating God's generosity and then really trying to actively follow the example of Jesus Christ. So trends. This faith-based market's been growing a lot. Obviously, Kingdom Advisors, who you're involved with, kind of estimates this market at about $22 trillion in terms of investments that are held by Christian church members. So the opportunity is vast.
Yes, it sure is. And we're just getting started, but good news that there's a lot of momentum behind it as awareness grows. Now, Benji, from a diversification standpoint, let's talk about international investing. Why should investors consider looking overseas?
All right. So as advisors know, and as people know, international equity exposure is an important part of a diversified portfolio. It's just as important in a faith-based portfolio, right? Faith-based investors want their values reflected across their entire portfolio. We've seen that international is a space where there's kind of less robust options. So we wanted to bring something in there, and people want choices and people want options.
Yeah, they sure do. But what unique challenges exist when we apply faith-based screens in international markets?
All right, so there can be some challenges, right? So, and investors, they need to make sure they're getting solid and reliable information in terms of what things should be in and what things should be out. So that's why working with a large and global partner like MSCI or Sustainalytics, some of the people that we work with, they have these large global presences and they have people that have been doing this for a long time. So they know kind of what to look out for, and really understanding kind of the culture overall, it can be really important. And another unique challenge is some countries actually have a lot more companies that are kind of involved in problematic areas. So depending on your investment style, that could become an issue.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, I want to get to this new faith-based international ETF that you just launched, PRXI. What gap does this product fill for both advisors and their clients?
Right. So we want to bring a product to market that works with our strengths at Praxis and then also fills a gap. Right. So there's this mix. Right. So there aren't many faith-based international ETFs out there. And we already have an international mutual fund it's about 15 years old. So we've been involved in this kind of international investing space for a while. So bringing it to the ETF space was important. And one of the things we can certainly say, because we do optimized index investing, which means that we're trying to perform similar to the index. Now, clients love that upside that can come with an active manager, but of course they don't love the downside that can sometimes come with an active manager. So what we've seen is clients that can be new to this faith-based investing space, if they see an ETF or an investment that has less volatility around that public index, it can actually be something that's really appealing for at least a portion of their portfolio.
Yeah, I love this because it gives investors an opportunity to seek a benchmark-like return while also maintaining that faith-based approach, and not only in the U.S. markets, but now internationally. So this is really exciting. Benji, we're so grateful for our partnership, and congratulations to the Praxis team on the launch of PRXI.
Thanks so much. Appreciate being with you.
Absolutely. Folks, that's Benjamin Bailey, Vice President of Investments at Praxis. Remember, a faith-driven portfolio doesn't have to stop at the border. With the right international investment options, you can pursue both global diversification and stay aligned with your convictions. Since 1994, Praxis has offered investment solutions that go beyond screening, really helping investors making a real-world impact through their investing. You can learn more at praxisinvests.com. That's praxisinvests.com. Back with your questions after this. Stick around. So glad to have you with us today on Faith and Finance Live. Our team is away today, so don't call in, but we lined up some great questions in advance, and we'll be going to those here in just a moment. Let me also remind you that the advice that I give each day on this program is general in nature. We offer principles and ideas that apply at a high level. They are not personalized, so that's why you should always seek professional financial advice. And if you'd like to find a professional who shares your values, we, of course, here at Faith and Finance Live recommend the Certified Kingdom Advisor designation. These are men and women who've met high standards, and they've been trained to bring a biblical worldview of financial decision-making. You can find one at faithfi.com. Let's dive in today. We're going to begin in Utah. David, go right ahead, sir.
Yes, I have a question about some money. I have no debt, and I've just saved up $100,000, and rather than just sitting there, it's like, there ought to be something better I can do with it.
Yeah. Well, it's a great question, and it's a good starting place to just say, listen, I've got this extra money. Let me ask you a couple of questions. Do you have it earmarked for any specific purpose that would help us back into a time horizon for this money, or is it really just surplus?
It would just be surplus.
Okay. So you're not planning on buying a home or, trying to generate any income from it. You've got all that covered. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what are your income sources today?
In construction,
Okay.
70 to 80,000 a year.
Okay, great. And in terms of, other savings beyond this 100,000, would this be the extent of your reserves, or do you have anything else that's liquid savings?
We have like emergency fund and probably another 40 or 50,000.
Okay, excellent.
Set aside for things like that.
Yeah, that's great. So you've got, upwards of 6 months, maybe more worth of expenses and emergency funds beyond this 100,000. And then what about long-term savings for retirement? Are you contributing to some sort of retirement plan, either individually or at your business?
My wife and I both have been maxing out our Roth each year.
Okay.
For several years.
Yeah, and how much have you accumulated there?
I believe it's around 130,000 each.
Okay. And how far off is retirement? And I'm not saying we need to follow the cultural perspective on this, that we reach an expiration date where we cease all productive activity. I don't think that's the biblical model. We were created to be productive, but we do recognize there may come a season where you're redirected to service that doesn't offer pay, or you're not able to continue in the profession you're in because it's too taxing on your body, those types of things. So, how far off would you expect a transition like that to occur where you may need to supplement your income?
Hopefully at least 15 years.
Okay. Yeah, great. And you all would have Social Security at that point. Obviously, you're living fairly modestly, well within, that 80,000 a year that you have coming in, because you've been able to put away the 100,000. And perhaps even in that season of life, your expenses go down a bit. And so hopefully Social Security could cover a big part of that. But, typically what we would say is you'd probably want maybe 12 times your income. So that'd be about $1 million. If it was 10 times your income, it'd be about 800,000. So I think somewhere between 800,000 and $1 million as a starting point might be a good goal. You guys have about $250,000, but you have time on your side. As you said, you've got 15 years. And even then, maybe you continue working part-time or even beyond your time horizon. So I think with this 100,000, at the very least, we want to continue to fund fully those Roth IRAs every year. That's a great savings vehicle. Do you have anything, what other types of retirement plans do you have? Do you have something at work beyond the Roths?
No, self-employed.
Okay. So have you ever looked at what's called a SEP IRA, SEP?
Have not.
Okay. So this would allow you, with your Roth, you can put in for 2026 if you're, if you're over 50 or older, you could put in 8,600, but you get to the end of that contribution limit pretty quickly. So with the SEP IRA for self-employed individuals, a self-employed pension, you can put away quite a bit more money. So you're able to put in up to 25% of eligible compensation, or effectively 20% of net self-employment income after certain adjustments, subject to the IRS annual dollar limit. You're going to get a tax deduction on what goes in, so it's tax advantaged in the year you put it in, and then you get tax deferred growth, which really helps because the taxes are not a drag on the investments as they grow. Now, if we take this and apply it to your situation, and these wouldn't be exact numbers, but just to give you a ballpark, on $80,000 of self-employed income, the maximum contribution, if we use this 20% of net self-employment earnings after deducting half of the self-employment tax, it'd probably be in the neighborhood of somewhere between $14,000 and $16,000 a year. The exact amount's going to depend on your Schedule C income and your self-employment tax calculation. So let's say you were able to put in roughly $15,000 this year, and then you did another $15,000 next year. You could slowly get this in and reduce your overall taxes in the year that you make the contribution as well, but it would take you some time. Now, if your wife is also employed by the business and is paid reasonable wages, she could have her own. If not, then she couldn't. But that would be one option. And I think perhaps, either using maybe a robo-advisor to get that done at Fidelity or Schwab, like Fidelity Go or the Schwab Intelligent Portfolios, or maybe you hire an advisor, a certified Kingdom advisor, to manage the Roths and help you get this $100,000 deployed through a taxable account combined with a SEP, I think could be a great option. And then you're not having to make the investment decisions. And if you wanted that, you could find a certified Kingdom advisor at findacka.com. But how does all that sound?
That sounds great.
Yeah, good. So I think that'd be the direction that I would go. Again, that website, findacka.com. Or if you wanted to do it yourself, you could use one of the robos, or you could go to soundmindinvesting.org. The Sound Mind Investing newsletter would give you mutual funds that you could, do it yourself and essentially use their system of recommendations to buy and sell the funds that fit your risk profile. But, I think as you continue to accumulate wealth, you've already got essentially $350,000 between the 100 and the 2 Roths. That's a good bit of money. And, it'd probably be worth your while to have an advisor step into that. But hopefully that helps you, David, give you a few things to think about. We appreciate your call. And if I can help further along the way, don't hesitate to reach out. Let's go to Mississippi. DeBrawl, go ahead.
Thanks for taking my call. My wife passed away back in December, and there's a possibility I may be getting some life insurance, and I was wondering if that would affect my Social Security.
It's a good question. So, first of all, I'm really sorry to hear about your wife's passing. That life insurance proceed will not affect your Social Security benefits. Life insurance payouts are not taxable income, and Social Security is not reduced based on receiving a lump sum like that. So, your monthly Social Security check will stay the same. Your life insurance payment will not count as earnings. That will certainly, not reduce your benefit. You can earn as much as you want anyway at 73, but it's not going to affect your benefit check whatsoever.
So if I was to put that into my checking account, it wouldn't affect anything at all?
It would not. Not related to Social Security. No, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right. Happy to help. If we can help further along the way, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for being on the program today, sir. Lord bless you. Back with more questions right after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to Faith and Finance Live, and you can find us online at faithfi.com. However, today we are not live, so if you hear that phone number, please don't call. But do stay with us. There's lots of good information ahead.
Let's head to Canada, northern Alberta. Hi, Christy. Go ahead.
Hi, Rob. A longtime listener. Larry Burkett was very influential how we viewed finances and especially debt. It impacted how we taught our young family 33 plus years ago. Wow. And this has made a huge difference in all of our lives, ourselves and our children that are now adults, and our giving. We're very, very grateful for your show.
Oh, wow, Christy, that means a lot. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, well, I've never called, but I've thought and praised God for you for many years. And so I'm glad that you're carrying the torch.
Wow,
my husband and I are believers, and in our mid-60s, we're dual citizens of the U.S. and Canada, and half of our working income was gained in each country. We own and operate a farm and have for 40 years. There's no successor in view right now. We want to continue to farm as long as our health allows, but we have no retirement accounts or plans for retirement, but we are completely debt-free. That's been our main drive. So we're not sure if we should start with an accountant or a lawyer or another place. Just wondering if there is a certified kingdom helper that would be familiar with agriculture, qualified in both the U.S. and Canada and retirement planning, or where do we start?
Yeah, excellent. Well, first of all, thank you for your kind remarks. I'm so delighted to hear of your testimony about your faithfulness in serving the Lord, his faithfulness to you, and the impact of the late Larry Burkett. I share your sentiment, and it's amazing to me how many people still to this day reference Larry and his impact on their lives. Countless millions have been touched by his work going back all the way to the late 70s. And so I appreciate that. It sounds like you all have done quite well. You're hard workers. I love the fact that you're debt free. I love that you've prioritized generous giving to the Lord. And I realize perhaps you're wondering about, your readiness for retirement, just given that you don't have a lot saved up. And yet, I think there is some planning to be done here. God is your provider, and that's what we need to certainly rely on. You mentioned that your income comes from both the U.S. and Canada. Will you be receiving the Canadian pension program?
Yes, I'm just starting to sign up for those. So we'll have the Canadian pension plan for some. And then we moved up here about 29 years ago. So the first part of our work years was in the U.S. farming. And so we both also have to sign up for the Social Security as well.
Yeah. So if you meet the basic requirements under each country's system, then you can certainly be eligible for benefits from both countries. As long as you have enough Social Security credits, then you'll get that as well. So I think that's the first step, is just to compare the benefits that you'll be receiving, hopefully from both the U.S. and Canada, against your against your lifestyle spending, so that you understand, once you are unable to continue to farm, what that looks like, whether or not that will be enough to maintain your lifestyle, or whether there'd be a gap of any kind there. And then putting together a retirement budget, which, most folks live on 70 to 80% of their pre-retirement income because they're debt-free, kind of like you are. The kids are off the payroll if there are kids. You're not saving for retirement anymore. So your expenses come down, and hopefully the income that you have from the U.S. and Canada would match that. In terms of a certified Kingdom advisor, Christy, there absolutely are CKAs there in Canada. And you're welcome to head to our website at faithfi.com and just put in your province there and do a search. You may have just because of how large geographically and dispersed Canada is, you may have to work virtually with a CK who's not right in your backyard. Lord willing, there will be somebody close by, but I'd interview 2 or 3, and in particular, look for one that is familiar with both U.S. and Canada, just given the fact that you've resided and worked in both. But I think that is the next step. I think it would be well worth the time and cost to visit with an advisor who could help you develop a comprehensive plan and, help you chart the course for the future.
Okay. And would it be good to check with an accountant too?
I think so.
Starting place?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I would let the advisor coordinate that. Perhaps he or she has a CPA that they work with, hopefully one that is, able to work both in the U.S. and Canada. You may have to engage a CPA from each country, and that search engine there at faithfi.com would allow you to put in your city of choice, and then you could expand that search radius and, find someone who's perhaps one that resides in the U.S. as well as one in Canada, and that way they would be familiar with each system.
Okay, well, perfect. Well, I appreciate all the other information you give about signing up for Social Security and guarding your credit and all that. You guys are a real blessing, and I thank you so very much.
Well, thank you, Christy. That's very kind of you, and may the Lord bless you. Tell your husband we're delighted for you and he as you head into this next chapter of your lives. Hey, I want to send you a gift just as a way of saying thanks for being a part of the program and for your call today. It's called An Uncommon Guide to Retirement. And I think it'll be a blessing for you. It takes into account listening for God's voice regarding your calling in retirement, helping you to think through family systems and leaving a legacy, even the idea of sabbatical rest in the early part of retirement. So I think it'll be an encouragement to you. It's by my friend Jeff Haanen, and it's subtitled Finding God's Purpose for the Next Season of Life. So you stay on the line, and if we can, Christy, we'll send it right out to you. But thanks for your call today. That was great to have you on the program. All right, we're going to head to a break, so don't go anywhere. Still a lot more to come, even though we're away from the studio today and you shouldn't call in. We have some great questions that you're really going to enjoy as we continue to apply God's wisdom to your financial decisions. We'll be right back.
This is Faith and Finance Live with Rob West. Hey, if you hear a phone number mentioned today, please ignore that number and don't call us, because today's broadcast was previously recorded. But we think the upcoming information will help you and make you a wise steward of what God's given you. So please, stay tuned.
All right, let's head back to the phones here. We'll go to Tennessee. Hi, Jason. How can we help you?
My question is, I have a daughter turning 16 years old today, and along with that milestone, I'd like to, start helping her become more responsible for her money and so forth. So I'd like to find I know there are a lot of different sorts of debit cards out there that are more app-oriented than just a typical checking account. So I wondered if you had any recommendations or particular ones to avoid. I know there's things like Cash App and things like that out there that seem to make me a little nervous. And if there was anything like that was more faith-oriented, that would certainly be a plus.
Yeah, very good. Well, I'm so thrilled to hear, Jason, that this is what you're doing and really taking this approach and trying to prepare her as a future adult for when she's on her own making these decisions. This is really key. And it's not just the financial literacy side, the dangers of debt and the value of hard work and the importance of a budget and living within your means, but also the biblical literacy side, understanding that God owns it all and that we're stewards and we're to give generously and that money can compete with our devotion and affection for God. So these are equally important. In fact, I think the spiritual is even more important. So in terms of a faith-based approach, I mean, the FaithFi app would be great for her just in terms of the financial education there that's all from a biblical perspective. and she could set up her budget there and manage it and start becoming familiar with the envelope philosophy, but in a modern smartphone expression of that. You'll find that at our website, faithfi.com. But if you're looking for an actual money management system where, she could have a debit card and you could have parental controls and she could actually use it to pay for things when, she goes and spends her own money, and then, you would need to look at something else. There's not one that I'm aware of that goes all the way to the extent of buying and selling and allow her to have an account. But there are some secular ones that generally come up over and over again as, some of the most highly rated. You mentioned one, I believe, and that is Chime. But the other one that I would look at, which is specifically for kids, the interface is for it. There is a cost to it, but it's called Greenlight. And you'll find it at greenlight.com. And it's, they build themselves as kind of the all-in-one money and safety app for families to teach kids how to manage money. And there's all kinds of parental controls. And, it's got a really nice interface. And I think they claim to have more than 6 million parents and kids, on this system. And you can even tie it to chores and that kind of thing. So Greenlight would be one to look at. The other is, and this is what I currently have my boys on, is just the Capital One Money account. So this is specifically for kids from Capital One. And the nice thing is that they have their own debit card, they have their own account, but I can go in my app and turn on and off the account. I can see all the transactions, even though it's in their name. I can automatically transfer money into the account and pull money out if I need to. So that would be another one. So I think Greenlight and then Capital One Money, it's called Money. That's the brand name for it. And it's specifically for teens. I think those two would get you going in the right direction. All right.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much for that information.
All right, Jason. Hey, happy birthday to your 16-year-old. That's a really exciting milestone in her life. We appreciate you being on the program today. Let's go to Mississippi. Kim, how can I help you?
Hey, Rob. My name is Kim. I am calling. Thank you so much for your show. I listen to it every day, and you've got some great wisdom to share with people. So
Thank you.
My question is, my husband and I are both retired. We're 64 years old. We've never used a financial planner. We have looked into using a CKA. We've listened to your show for about a year now. There's not one local. We live in a little town called Decatur here in Mississippi.
Okay.
Anyway, we want to know if you can recommend. We have money that we've been blessed. Our house is paid off. We're debt-free. We are both retired. He's retired military. I'm retired government. 64 years old. We have TSP savings of about $700,000. We have a credit union account that has like over $100,000 in it. We have a checking account that, and really we don't need this, but it's got a good bit of about $50,000-$60,000 in it. Savings of about $100,000. And we just need to know, we've looked up for CKAs in our area. Unfortunately, there's not one right here. There's a couple in Mississippi. There's some in Birmingham and Tuscaloosa nearby. But I just want to call you and see what we need to be doing as far as, I hear you talk about Roth IRAs too.
Yes.
What do we need to be doing with funds?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I really appreciate your kind remarks about the program. You guys are in great shape, Kim. Obviously, you all, have been faithful in managing what God has entrusted to you. You've lived modestly. You've worked hard. You've saved quite a bit. You're in a really strong position being debt-free, having plenty of liquid reserves and having those retirement assets. So you each have thrift savings plans from your government work. Is that right?
We do.
All right. And what do you have accumulated between the two of those?
About $700,000.
Okay. And are you pulling anything out of those, or are you just living on Social Security?
We are just living on my husband's military retirement and Social Security. Yes, sir. And then I've got, government retirement plus my Social Security.
Got it. Yeah, very good. So, yeah, you're in really good shape. I mean, this is a situation where you can even start to ask how much is enough. And really, even though there are some risks in this season of life, although he'd have VA benefits, if you all needed expensive long-term care at some point, 70% of Americans 65 and older will need that. If it ever required nursing care or memory care, I mean, that could be $100,000 a year or more. and that's going up. So, I'm not saying you've overaccumulated, but you also have the opportunity, sitting on $700,000 and plenty of liquid reserves, and the fact that you're not touching it, it's continuing to grow, to start to ask the question, is there some opportunity to do some additional giving? I also love the idea that you're thinking about aligning your values with your investments, and that's where I think a certified Kingdom advisor could be really helpful. Although I'm a big fan of the TSP because it's, got low cost options and it's very simple to pick the investments that match your risk profile, using the G and the C and the F and the I funds and the S. And so, it allows you to build a portfolio that actually has great performance, and it takes a lot of the guesswork out. But if you rolled those TSPs over to 2 IRAs, one for each of you, and you had a certified Kingdom advisor who could come into the mix, that would allow you to actually tailor the portfolio a little more dialed in, because you have unlimited investment options to your risk profile and goals and objectives. It would allow you to do some additional giving because you'd have the qualified charitable distribution opportunity once you reach 70. And I know you're not there yet, but once you do, you'd be able to do giving out of your IRA that never becomes taxable, which is not possible with the TSP. So that's nice. And then thirdly, you could find a certified Kingdom advisor that could bring faith-aligned investments, which is not available in the TSP either, where it'd be screened to make sure that it aligns with your values. And even if there's not someone in your area, which we need to change that, so if you're hearing the program and you're an advisor in that area, be sure to reach out to Kingdom Advisors. But there's plenty of advisors in the cities you mentioned, like Birmingham and Huntsville, that would be willing to work with you remotely, and maybe you just visit in person once a year. Hang on the line. We'll talk a bit more. We'll be back with our final segment. Stay with us. Thanks for joining us today on Faith and Finance Live. Here in our final segment of the broadcast today, let me remind you, our team is not here, so don't call in, but we lined up some great questions in advance. We'll get to those in just a moment. Before we do, let me remind you, if you haven't downloaded the FaithFi app, we'd love for you to check it out. It's got 3 sections in it. The first is the money management system based on Larry Burkett's digital envelope system. It helps you manage God's money in a way where you know exactly what's left in each envelope at any point during the month. There's also our Learn tab, where you can access the best content in biblical finance to grow in your understanding of God's way of handling money, and our community, where you can post questions, get comments, and ideas from other stewards on the journey. So download it today on our website, faithfi.com. Just click app. Nashville, Tennessee. Derek, how can I help?
Hey there. Thank you, by the way, so much for what you do. We are very grateful for that. Just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
My question for you is, we inherited a timeshare and we are not using it. And so we've been paying our taxes on it, but we've been defaulting on the fees because we're not utilizing it. So it's gone into foreclosure on purpose. We are kind of purposely letting it go because in our lack of information of how this whole process goes with timeshares, because we don't know much about them, is the value of it seems to be anywhere between maybe only like $1,000 to $3,000, but these fees are around $2,600. So in essence, it wouldn't make sense for us to hold on to it to pay these fees if we're not utilizing it. So we're thinking the best thing to do is have it go in foreclosure. But my concern is, as far as getting a loan in the future, does that foreclosure on our record have any bearing in underwriting?
Yeah, I mean, that really can hurt your credit. So even though it's, quote, just a timeshare, the lender reports it the same way they would report a home foreclosure or a repossession or a major delinquency. A foreclosure typically stays on your credit report for 7 years, and it's going to make it harder to qualify for a mortgage or get good interest rates or refinance later. So yes, letting it foreclose will absolutely affect your credit when buying real estate. In terms of the paths forward, and I realize they're not any that are real simple, because I wouldn't use an exit company. I think there's just a lot of really difficult situations out there where, there's a lot of fraudsters, a lot of people who charge you a lot of high fees and really don't do anything for you. I mean, the best option, but they're hard to come by, is where you call the timeshare company and ask for what's called the deed back program. Many companies now have a deed back or a surrender program where you can return it voluntarily. There's no foreclosure, no impact on your credit. It's cleaner and faster. You'd want to start there. If they don't have that, then you could try to sell it or give it away, even selling it for $1. I mean, there are marketplaces where, you can, as an owner, list a timeshare for free. One of them is the Timeshare Users Group. That's probably the biggest one, and it's tug2.com, Tug, the number 2.com. And they provide resale options and guides for owners trying to exit without harming their credit. The third option is negotiate a settlement to avoid foreclosure. So if you're already behind, sometimes you can negotiate with the lender to settle the debt for a lesser amount and then close the account as paid/settled. And that, again, avoids the foreclosure notation, which is not ideal, but better than a full foreclosure on your credit. You'd only want to allow a foreclosure as an absolute last resort.
Okay, my question on that, though, is because I just got off the phone with the foreclosure company, and they said that the foreclosure does not go on our record or credit one bit because it does not have a loan against it. This is something that's paid off that doesn't have any, that's not attached. So it's my understanding from what they told me is our credit would not be affected if it goes into foreclosure since it doesn't have a loan attached to it.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I would have them give that to you in writing just to make sure that's not somebody who's ill-informed, because you want to make sure that you're getting good counsel there. But even then, I would just see what you can do to avoid the classification being a foreclosure. I just don't like that. I would rather there be some sort of arrangement that they would be willing to give to you in writing that, they're willing to let this go and, maybe you pay a certain amount to do that or something. But the idea that they're calling it a foreclosure just doesn't really sit well with me.
I agree with you. I don't like the sound of foreclosures either. So,
yeah. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're going to have to trust their counsel. I mean, you could always get an attorney involved and just have somebody that is representing you and look it over just to verify and knows the questions to ask. But, if they are, giving you that promise, then, I think the other approach is to say, great, can I get that in writing? And, that's always a better option. Listen, all the best to you, Derek. We appreciate your call today, and hopefully you can get out of this quickly and without any harm to your credit. Thanks for your call today and for your kind remarks about the program. Let's go down to Alabama. And Dick, how can I help?
Yes, Rob, thank you for your great program.
Thank you.
I'd like to give a shout out to Larry Burkett's program. My wife and I started that about 40 years ago, and we got out of debt and saved our first $10,000. We were exonerated.
Wow.
Then we were successful to get our first $100,000. We thought how great this program is. But then he had a good course saying how much is enough.
Yes.
So we've accumulated some, and what we do is we take the proceeds off that every year and give it to ministry.
Wow.
So I didn't know if we should just liquidate the whole thing and give it to the ministries now, or just keep letting it grow every year and take the proceeds and give it to the ministry, because it's like killing the goose and the golden egg. I think in 5 years we just about gave what we had in there, so it's been a blessing.
Yeah. I love that.
Recommend?
Yeah, so how much do you have accumulated in this giving account?
Well, it could be anywhere up to six figures.
Okay. Yeah, and where is it sitting?
We have it in some investment accounts.
Okay.
Kind of an umbrella like the Roth that we can take out without having to pay taxes. Now, we do some qualified charitable distributions on what we have to.
Okay.
50% of it still, being taxed.
Yeah. So you have the ability, to do up to more than $100,000 in qualified charitable distributions. It sounds like this is all in a traditional IRA. Is that right?
Well, some of it's TSP and some of it is Roth and some of it's IRAs. Yes, sir.
Okay, got it. So you got a mix. Yeah, I mean, as much as you can put into that, the traditional IRA, that's great. I would just say, God has entrusted these resources to you, and for whatever portion you've decided to give away, I would let the Lord lead in that. I wouldn't hold it back because of necessarily the earnings potential. If the Lord gives you a clear direction and vision for where you want this money to go, as you pray and think through that, I mean, think about the compounding effect of that money in eternity forever versus sitting in there. I mean, as good as that 10 or 12 or 15% you might be getting on that portfolio, I would put forward that compounding in God's economy doesn't compare to that 12% a year. And so for me, it would be a matter of really discerning where the Lord wants you to give that money. Now, you may decide, given on the size of it, I wouldn't want it to be more than 10% of your church's budget if that's where it's going. And if you're making a major gift to another ministry, I'd want to know that that's a ministry like maybe American Family Association that's stretching every dollar and really being good stewards of that. But as long as you're comfortable with this aligns with God's heart, it aligns with our passions, and we believe they're wise stewards of the resources entrusted to them as a ministry, then I would say once the Lord gives you that clarity, let's get that into God's economy right now. Let's not try to hold it back for a 10 or 12% return. Does that make sense?
It does. So are you saying probably liquidate the whole amount and give it now?
Yeah, I mean, you could, I think assuming the Lord gives you real clarity on where that you want that to go, if that's money you're planning to give away anyway, the fields are white under harvest, and so why not get that into the kingdom immediately if you've already essentially given it away in your mind? I don't see necessarily, apart from you just still waiting and discerning from the Lord where to give it, once that's clear, I don't think there's any reason to hold it back at that point.
All right, at our death, we were going to give it to each one of the kids, and they had to give it to the ministers of their choice.
Love that.
Does not Ron Ballou have a great guide about which ministries are the most effective? Is that being selfish, praying for effective ministry?
No, I don't think so at all. I think that's part of good stewardship. Just asking where should this go and what, ministries are stewarding well what they have. You could check out Charity Navigator. You could check out the Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability. But Charity Navigator provides a rating on every ministry if you want to just understand their financial health and accountability and a whole host of factors. Apart from that, the National Christian Foundation that Ron and Larry started could be a great resource to you to advise you. You could go to ncfgiving.com, and you could have the kids help give it away today. You don't have to wait till you all pass away. Maybe you involve them in directing a portion of this. But I would say if you've decided to give it away and the Lord makes it clear where He wants you to give it, don't hold back. Let's get that into God's economy and let's see what He does with it. And you get the blessing right now, not only tax-wise, but even bigger than that, the joy of seeing it used as a part of God's grand story. Dick, I hope that helps. Thanks for your call, my friend. We're grateful for you. Call anytime. Well, folks, that's going to do it for us. It's been a joy to be along with you today. Thanks for inviting us into your story. What a joy it is to encourage you with God's Word as you seek to be that wise and faithful steward. Let me say thanks to my team today. I couldn't do it without them. Josh, Tahira, Taylor, and Omar. Faith and Finance Live is a partnership between Moody Radio and Faith Fi. Have a wonderful day and come back and join us next time for another edition of Faith and Finance Live.